somebody brought down this answer, but we're all set. Thank you. I will.
Hello. Oh, hi, good morning. I don't have anybody right now. As soon as I have somebody else, I'll turn it down.
All right, good morning, everyone. We will call this meeting to order at 9:04 a.m. We will now move on to our Madam President, Noelen Yaxos.
Good morning. I would like for our secretary to go ahead and proceed with the roll call for our staff senators. Once again, the roll call is for staff senators only. Madam Secretary, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. Senators, please indicate your status by indicating here in the chat. Nolan Lazos, Laura Ramos, Claudia Dole Morrison, Alberto Adame, Karen Dorado, Rogelio Chanes, Kevin Garza, Karina Herrera, Nicole English, Nayeli Garcia, Ashley Mercado, Juan Santos Flores, Maria Serna, Orlando Castaneda, Tammy Munoz, Veronica Villarreal, Armando Garza, Marissa Camparano, Kelly Quinn, Millie Resendez, Cordelia Rasa, Teresa Villarreal, Irene Cardenas, Andres Chavez, Yadira Mejia, Caitlin Brusette, Jacob Camacho. Thank you, Senators. Madam President, quorum has been established.
Thank you so much, Madam Secretary. Good morning, everybody. On behalf of the Staff Senate, thank you for joining us this morning. As always, it is wonderful to see you all. I'd like to start off by sharing information, some bittersweet news that we had to say goodbye to a couple of our staff senators and e-board members. Nick Dubberly, who served as the staff senator for the Division of Finance and Administration, as well as our historian. And also Matthew Pollack, who serves as the staff senator for the Division of Institutional Advancement and are parliamentarian. These gentlemen have taken an opportunity to work in the private sector, and I believe that they're going to be a great asset in their respective industry. I want to say thank you to both Nick and Matt for their time and service to the university, to the staff senate, and wish them well on their new adventure. On a happier note, it is a great joy to be able to be in this meeting with two of our e-board members, our Madam Vice President Yadira, who's acting as our parliamentarian, and of course, our Secretary Alicia. It's been a while since we were able to do this, but here we are. And we're just glad to be able to start doing this again safely and comfortably. Our first order of business this morning is the approval of our meeting minutes. Madam Secretary, can you please make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the May and the June minutes.
Any second? Somebody second, I
I think
can't.
that was Karen.
Karen, okay. Any
It wasn't me,
debate?
but I can second.
Thank
Okay.
you. Any debate or discussion? Debate or discussion? Debate or discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye, raise your hand, thumbs up.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Right. The meeting minutes for May and June has passed. Thank you so much. It brings us great pleasure to have our guest this morning, as she is a very, very busy woman. She serves as our Senior Vice President for Governmental and Community Relations. Ms. Veronica Gonzales oversees local, state, and federal governmental relations, community engagement, and economic development programs. Her division monitors legislation and public policy issues and advise administrators of their potential impact on UTRGV. Just recently, she was recognized by the Rio Grande Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce as 2021 Women of Distinction in Government. A great big congratulations
rest
to
of
you,
the stuff.
Veronica, and
No, I
thank
don't
you
need
so
a
much
dolly.
for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Nolan, and good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I want to make sure that, okay, good. It's a pleasure to be with you and to be able to provide somewhat of an update for you on the legislative session. We all thought it was over for now because we go from January to May 31st. And as the governor, or you may have known this because you watched the news, but the governor called a special session, starts actually today. And so there's already, I think, over 100 bills that have been filed for the special session. I'm going to give you a little more information on that, but special sessions are different from the regular one, and I'll give you some info. But let me share my screen so see if I can pull up this this PowerPoint here. Can y'all see this? Will somebody say yes, because I can't see y'all.
No, not
Not
yet.
yet.
Not yet? Okay, let's see. How am I doing this? Still nothing?
No,
Not
ma'am.
yet.
Okay, let me go back on here and see.
Trying to be present, trying to be 100% focused on that.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yay,
there we
okay,
go.
here we go. All right, see, that's what happens when you have assistants all the time and they take care of all this and you don't do any of this. So Richard, that works in our office, Richard Sanchez, had used this photo in another document we had. And I thought it was so lovely because it showed what the Capitol looked like when we had our very rare snowstorms here in Texas. But anyway, that the Capitol is always beautiful, but it was especially beautiful then. So here's some background information. And as you see this tent, COVID affected everybody. I mean, we had at the Capitol, you couldn't go in there unless you got tested. And you had to do a rapid test, get a bracelet every time you were going to go in there. But as we were discussing, the session started in January, and it ended, the regular session ended May 31st, 140 days. There's two chambers. Most of you know this, if you remember from your history lessons, there's two chambers, the House and the Senate, and there's the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the speaker. And this time the speaker was new. He was he's actually a very young guy, a new member, hasn't been there too long, but was elected speaker at the beginning of the session. And it was a strange one because of COVID. We had very limited interaction. We weren't able to go up there as much as before. We also had to test, as I mentioned, before we go into the Capitol. So a lot of Zoom meetings is how we were able to conduct some of the business. And we were very concerned at the beginning because funding was strained. We were told that the state was going to be down by several $billion, but Texas did a good job of recovering, and federal stimulus dollars also helped fill some of the gap. And actually at the end, we were very pleased with the results. Let me go to the next slide and I'll tell you how we did. On the budget, it's a huge budget because of course Texas is a big state, 248 billion overall. 8.6 billion of that goes to higher education. And a lot of that is for, of course, financial aid programs. And we were very happy that they added new money for financial aid, including the Texas grants. 100 million was added for that. For UTRGV, we have a fairly large budget, and it continues to grow year after year. We're at 377.7 million. And our general academic institution makes up the bulk of that at 303 million. And our School of Medicine has 73.8 million. So I know some of these items, you'll go, what is that? Formula funding, the way we're funded, and I think Dr. Bailey's explained it to us many times before, but formula funding is, they basically count per head, the type of course, and they put a value to them. And so you get, they do a formula, and that's how you determine how much is going to be received. So when you have enrollment growth like we did, our formula funding went up. In fact, we were number 7 overall with that had a $20 million gain or higher. And we were in the top 4 among the UT institutions. The non-formula, the things that are, we used to call them special items, but they're things that some of them we've had for years. And I know I saw Maria's on here, she's in our area, but our economic development offices get some non-formula funding. The medical school startup funding is non-formula funding. Those are always scary because they can easily take a cut to that. The formula is the formula. It's going to be whatever it is based on the numbers. They can play with the amount per hour, but with the non-formula, they can always cut it. And they had cut it. In fact, they took a 5% reduction. They did this for all schools. There was very few exceptions with some really small schools, but we were able to keep all of the items that we had funded with those monies, which was a good plus for us. The School of Medicine also saw an increase, 4.6 million, and their non-formula funding, which was what I was mentioning a little while ago, they kept it minus the 5% reduction, so they got almost 40 million there. And then our cancer research funding as well was kept in place. So we also saw, and I know that for a lot of y'all will not know what this is, but you always hear about the residency programs, right? So that's graduate medical education. And that funding increased overall in the state by $48 million. That was good for us, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But we also had strong support for telemedicine, mental health, financial aid. All of those things were very, very positive for higher ed. And you probably hear about the rainy day fund, and that's a fund that the state has. It's your savings account, basically, and they did not tap it. And even though we'd had all kinds of disasters this year, they left that fund untapped. So it has over $10 billion in it. It's expected to go up to 11.6 billion at the end of the 2023 if left untouched. And I do expect that it will be left untouched. So here's this will show you how we did. If you'll notice, the ones that are highlighted are the UT schools. And the UT Rio Grande Valley, we went up by 23.7 million. The only one, there was not that many that went up above us, as you see. And then we had a change in our formula share of 0.33. That's also, we were number 2 on that. Number 1 was UT Dallas, and then we were second on the increase. So congratulations to everyone because it took a team effort to get everybody to encourage our students to persist, to continue to get enrolled. We tried to make sure that we had aid available to them so they could do it, especially during the pandemic. And the result was great. So I congratulate everyone for this, because it really did help us in increasing our formula share. So this was legislation we were asked to really try to move for UTRGV. I think you know that we are going to be starting podiatry here at UTRGV, and that's the ankle and foot, right? The study of the ankle and foot. And we're going to open the first school of podiatry in the entire state of Texas. No one has it. And especially with our diabetes rates being what they are here, that's so important for us. So we open in fall 2022 for podiatry. And our concern was, we don't want to educate the podiatrist and then they have to leave the state to do their residency programs. But there was no money for residency. We were not allowed to qualify for the grants that the MDs and the ODs get. And so we were asked to try to get our legislative delegation and others to move legislation for us and to pass it that would help us to allow the podiatrists to be included in the types of grants that can be received from the state for podiatry. And we were successful in that. And so we really want to thank our delegation and in particular, Representative Lucio from Brownsville and Senator Hinojosa, who they were the ones that carried the legislation in the House and in the Senate. So now hopefully we will be able to get our first class of podiatrists in there and also have residency programs going so that when our grandmas and our tias and maybe even some of us that have, that are diabetic would be able to go to a specialist and not have to get to a point where we're looking at amputations of our limbs because they can help with the preventive care of, for your foot and ankle. We also were asked to look at cleaning up the statutes, UTPA and UT Brownsville, their names are all over the statutes in the state of Texas in the codes. And we've been going through them and trying to make sure that they say UTRGV. And so there's some provisions that were UTPA minded, and there's other provisions that were UT Brownsville. So we went in there and we updated 13 sections of the code, but we also took the opportunity to separate out the athletics fee. As you know, athletics is something that really does help us as a student community to have something to rally around together, right? And people get excited and they tailgate at universities, and before games, there's all this activity. And so we hope to be able to grow our athletics as well here at UTRGV. But we want students to know what they pay right now. What do you pay for athletics fee out of your bill, and what do you pay for your other student services? And so we separated out the athletics fee, so it would be its own freestanding fee. And so now when students get their bill, they'll be able to tell what they're paying for, much more transparent. But we didn't change the fees, and I think that's what's so important for everybody to know and to pass along. There was no increase in fees. We just separated it out. And I think in the years to come, that will be very advantageous for us, for students to be able to know what it is they're paying for. Then we also had several pieces of legislation. These are things that you heard about on the news, didn't necessarily, it wasn't necessarily for UTRGV, but it was important because it affects our everyday lives. So broadband, we all saw that with the pandemic, how our students and faculty and others, you'd have trouble with your broadband. Some homes didn't have any access to internet. So there was a broadband development office created by the state, and they're going to be able to award grants and low interest loans and other incentives to expand broadband services around the country. The feds are also looking right now at giving out some grants for broadband. And there's also been already some federal stimulus dollars that have given out that can be used in part for broadband. In fact, the CARES money that we've distributed and other dollars, some students have used it to buy computers, to buy hotspots, to be able to help them so that they have better broadband services. There was also a bill, the permitless carry, and I think y'all have all probably heard about this on the news. You know, Texas is very much a Second Amendment state, and we already had a bill that allowed you to have a concealed handgun license. Well, now the law has changed to where people can carry handguns in Texas without having a concealed handgun license. They don't have to have a permit. They can use a holster, so it doesn't have to be concealed. It can be in full view. Businesses can still determine if they don't want to have guns in their business, but if they receive money from the state, if they're the type of agency or somebody that receives money from the state, you cannot prohibit the carrying of guns. For us on the campus, we had laws to protect the campus. Those laws stayed in place. So it hasn't changed for us, but it has changed around the rest of the state. And so we wanted you to know that. There's also a bill passed, and during the special session, this is again going to come up. But right now, if you remember when you're in K through 12 school and you were learning about history, and I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but if you think about it, okay, who won the Alamo? Right? Let me pose that question to you. Who won the Alamo? Because they posed that question to Texans. There was a survey, and about 50% said Texas won the Alamo. Others said Mexico won the battle at the Alamo. Well, if you remember from your history, Texas didn't win. They all died at the Alamo, right? They won later at San Jacinto, and that's when they yelled, "Remember the Alamo." But some people in school were led to believe, because they talked about the heroes of Davy Crockett and William Travis and all these, that we won the Alamo. And then people also said, well, they were fighting for independence. Well, they were fighting for a lot more than independence. They were fighting over cotton. They were fighting over money. They were fighting over immigration. They were fighting over slavery, because Mexico had prohibited slavery, but the US and Texas wanted to keep slavery, right? That group. So understanding and knowing all the history lessons is so important. I mean, seeing both sides of it is so important. But what this book does is it's limiting what public school students can be taught about the US history, especially as it relates to race. It's called critical race theory. And it's very, very controversial right now, and especially among the K through 12, because this law affects the K through 12, not the university, but the K through 12. So they're going back this special session, and this is again going to be taken up, but there's a move to make it even stricter. So be watching for that. As you hear the news and you hear critical race theory, you'll kind of get a good idea of what that's about. And then the fetal heartbeat bill, this is another one I put up here because we all know that the law right now is Roe v. Wade for women and choice, but states have been getting tighter and tighter on the restrictions on how you can have an abortion or where you can have an abortion. And this one says that any abortions after there's a heartbeat that can be detected are banned. And that can be as early as 6 weeks. So if you know ladies who have been pregnant, or if you've been pregnant, you know that sometimes you don't even know you're pregnant until after 6 weeks. So, but if you find out after 6 weeks, now under this law, you cannot get an abortion. And this bill says that private citizens who maybe, or let's say that you're a private citizen and you hear of somebody that got an abortion, you can file a lawsuit against the clinic that provided it, the doctor, the people associated with it. You don't even have to have any connection. You don't have to be the parent. You don't have to be the, anybody related to it. Anybody can file a lawsuit if they know of someone that had an abortion after 6 weeks. That's going to be kind of hard to manage, I think. But that's what the current law is based on what they passed this session. And then now when they go back into special, again, they're going to be looking at maybe even tighter restrictions on this. So be watching for that. And I always tell people, if you're for something or against something, you need to let your legislators know. That's what they're there for. And they They need to hear from the constituents, the people that vote them into office. So these are some other pieces of legislation impacting higher ed. And there's a bunch, and there's way more than I even put in the presentation, which I sent to Nolan, and she can share with you if you're interested. But these are just some of them, and I won't go through them all. But athletics, you've probably been hearing on the news how now student athletes are going to be able to be paid for their name, image, and likeness, right? So they're going to be able to do endorsement deals. They're going to be able to have money coming in because of that endorsement. How that's going to work out, we'll see. I know a lot of the states had already been doing it, and Texas thought if we don't do this, we're going to be behind, and then we're not going to be able to recruit, because the states that do allow it are going to recruit all the athletes that are going to want to be part of this, and the states that don't won't be able to. So Texas passed it as well, but it's still something that's very new, and we're going to have to see how it works out. There's also bills on textbook and course materials against transparency. That's a big theme throughout the session. Community colleges can now offer up to 5 four-year degrees. STC, by the way, already does that, but there's so many in the state that do not. And so they increased the cap from 3 to 5. Title IX, the protections for sexual assault victims. There was a lot of legislation. Now you can use a pseudonym. You don't have to identify yourself when you are filling out the complaint. The police officer can't, if you choose to do that, they can't put your name, phone number, or address on there. So that we don't want victims' identity to be revealed if they don't want to reveal it. There was also laws passed to provide them with an advocate. So they have an advocate with them when they do the interview and forensic medical examinations, prohibiting polygraphs on victims. So these were all things to protect women. That first one was a duplicate, but bilingual education, getting a certificate, and bilingual special education certificate to ensure that teachers with have special training and instruction have these certificates. Veterans, this was to allow course credit for some of the experience you may have that you gained via the military. So you can get through school faster because you already have some of that experience for those courses, kind of like placing out on a course. Workforce development, there was a law passed to allow an agreement with an employer outside of the university. So you could still get workforce credit, right? You can still go and work outside of the university, but with an employer. It just there has to be an agreement on file. 3767 related to aligning education and workforce development. That is a big thing, and it also establishes this tri-agency initiative. Because right now, we want to make sure that we are starting programs that are where people are going to have jobs. We don't want to just start a program to start a program, but we know that there has to be a need for that program. And so we want to say, okay, you have a need for more engineers. Okay, aerospace engineers, for instance, with SpaceX, right? So you need aerospace engineers. Okay, what are the demands out there in the workforce? Now let's create a course. So this is to align workforce and the development of courses. Tuition and fees, there's always legislation on that. This is on the formula funding for excess credit hours at institutions. This one, Guri, right now, when you were recruiting researchers to medical schools and others, you were getting money from the state to do it, but they had to be a Nobel laureate researcher, or they had to come from one of these academies, the National Academy of Sciences or Engineering or Medicine. Well, by the time that they become Nobel laureate or belong to one of these academies, they're usually pretty up in age. I mean, they're at the end of their careers. So what this does is it allows you to get money from the state to recruit talented mid-career researchers, so that way they still have a lot of life left in them and a lot of good research to be done. Then we have the bill on enrollment in student services and financial aid. This one is, if you have to drop a course, for instance, due to a disaster or due to other other reasons, like good reasons like severe illness or a debilitating condition, you had to care for a sick or injured person, that it wouldn't count against you. So I thought that was a really good bill, because our students, life happens and things happen to our students, and unfortunately it takes a toll on their studies as well. This one, the TASFA, you have the FAFSA and you have the TASFA. And this one is delaying the implementation of the TASFA so that it would align with the changes they're making of FAFSA. So for a lot of our students, for instance, that maybe are not citizens and they can't fill out the FAFSA, this will be of assistance to them. This one is on undergraduate course credit. Let's see, this one adopts a uniform statewide credit granting policy. So it's, I don't know why I put it in there. It's kind of obscure, but I think it will help some of our students with their college level examination programs. Hazing, we've seen so much of that in the news, and we are fortunate that our students we haven't had incidents like that, but it does happen on college campuses all around the country. And this one, we're trying in Texas to make sure that hazing is not occurring, and we do hear about it, some of the larger institutions. So this one creates a task force that will focus on mental health services for hazing. And it also says that if you report a hazing incident, you're not going to get charged with anything. You'll have immunity. Of course, you couldn't have been one of the participants in it and get immunity. But if you're somebody else, maybe you were there and you saw it and you reported it, you won't be charged with anything. You'll have immunity. Dual credit and suicide prevention. So these are things like having information on where you can call, information that's available to you that's printed on your ID cards. So to try to give students who are thinking about suicide or something, a place that they can go and a number that's handy to them that they can reach out to people for help. And then we had a lot of great acknowledgements. We had some resolutions and proclamations filed for our students and also for our faculty, our chess team. There was a lot of resolutions that were filed congratulating them on their 2021 President's Cup. Our CHAPS program, if you haven't gotten familiar with CHAPS, you should. There's so much information there. For many people that are from the Rio Grande Valley, you can learn a lot about your history. You don't have to go on Ancestry to find out. The CHAPS program and the stuff they do can teach you so much about who was here, your ancestors and others. And so I encourage you to get to know them. Our internship program that we have at the Capitol, it's an awesome opportunity for our students to really learn side by side with legislators, and they put them to work. And this session, it was very strange because some of them had to work from home. Some kind of did a dual hybrid where they worked from home and then went into the Capitol. And then some were at the Capitol all the time. But they really do get them to monitor hearings, to help them with legislation, to pass it. They learn a lot about it and they learn about how government works. So we want to continue that program. Of course, we all loved Lou Hill, and when he passed away, it was so difficult, not only for our community, but really for everybody that knew him around the state and the country. And so he was honored with a resolution as well by both the House and the Senate. And then we had some of our faculty that were acknowledged for their outstanding teaching. We had Eleuterio Blanco, Monica Reyes, Dr. Villalobos, Teresa Feria, and our Dr. John Krause, our outgoing dean. So these were very nice resolutions passed on their behalf. And so the special session, so just when you thought it was over, it's like the Godfather movie where they keep pulling you back in. They started today with the special sessions. Special sessions can only be called by the governor. They can last 30 days, but if they haven't completed everything, he can call another special session and then another and another. And usually they're on one topic, but look at all the things that he added on the call. So we're looking at voter legislation. There's one side that calls it voter suppression and the other side calls it voter integrity. Depending on where you fall on it though, there's going to be changes made to the law on how you can vote, when you can vote, where you can vote. So you should really stay on top of this because it affects us all. Legislation on bail. They're making it harder for people to get out of jail on the bail. Critical race theory, the one we talked about on what you can teach in the schools. Social media censorship, that you know how some of the social media platforms had banned people from being on their platforms. Well, this is to prevent that, that you can't ban individuals for what they want to say. Border security, you've been hearing about how Texas wants to now build a wall and how the governor is asking for state dollars to be used for a wall. They're going back to talk about this. By the way, they put in $1 billion for border security in the budget. And it's a tremendous amount of money, especially when you consider all of the needs throughout the state. So be watching this, because we're going to see if they're going to try to use more funds, state dollars for this wall that would be here in South Texas and in other border areas of the state. More abortion restrictions, transgender sports ban, that students who are transgender students would not be able to participate in some of the UIL activities. And Article 10 funding, well, Article 10 is the budget for the legislators and all of their staff. And what happened was, on the voting legislation at the very end of the session, it got dramatic because the Democrats did not want this voter legislation to go through. And they knew that if the bill wasn't reached by midnight for a vote, that it wouldn't be able to pass. And so it was close to midnight, and they thought, we don't know how we're going to stop it because the Republicans have a majority. So what they did was they broke quorum, and they slowly all left the Capitol building and the chamber, and they didn't have quorum to vote on it. And the bill died in the last day of when they could vote on it. So the governor was very upset and said, I'm going to call a special session, and we're going to put it back on the call, and y'all are going to have to vote for it. And I'm going to punish you because you didn't vote for it. So what he did was he completely vetoed the entire budget for the legislators and their staff. And imagine that if you're at your job and all of a sudden you find out you're not going to get a paycheck anymore because your budget has been completely demolished and pulled. So he put it back on this call, but I think what he's saying, and this is the ongoing battle, is until you pass these things, you're not going to get your funding. And so there's a lot of controversy, and it's going to be in the news quite a bit, I imagine, in the next few weeks. Even the feds have gotten involved on this now. There's going to be some family violence prevention. They're looking at addressing that. A 13th check for the teachers. It is campaign time, and teachers make up a big group. And so they're talking about passing giving them a 13th check instead of just 12 for the year, another extra one. And of course, everybody loves extra money. So we'll see if that goes through. But of course, it costs money as well. Property taxes, they want to make even more cuts on the property tax. We all love it, but from a statewide, it costs the state a lot of money. They want to make changes on the foster care system and cybersecurity. So imagine all of those things. I don't know how they can take them up in 30 days, but we'll see what happens in the next 30, 60, 90 days. And then they're going to take up redistricting as well. And that's going to be in the fall. So our legislators, if you see any of them, if you know any of them, thank them, because they get paid $600 a month. It's nothing. And right now with Article 10 being vetoed, they get paid nothing. So thank them for their time, because it really is a volunteer type of job, and it takes up a tremendous amount of time. These are our interns. Of course, there's Richard's in there and I'm in there too. We don't qualify as the interns, and so Dr. Ragland as well. But we had some amazing students that became our interns at the Capitol. They learned so much. And look, here's some of the quotes that they said. I was stunned about how much work goes on to make a law. Without a doubt, I want to work with government in any sense of the word, due to that being the best way to invoke change. These are things that are so good to hear for us, that we, help run this program, along with many of our faculty and others that have assisted on it in different offices. So thank you all for everybody that's been involved in this, because it's tremendous experience for our students. And this is our team. There's only 3 of us, and we work on local, state, and federal government relations. So we're always very, very busy, but we thank everybody, that because it takes a team effort around the university to make it happen. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. I would like to open up the floor for any questions or comments that you may have for Ms. Gonzalez. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
I just wanted to say thank you. It was very informative. Wow. I actually was taking notes on the bills that are coming up, and I just thought it was amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, just thank you.
You're very, very welcome. And I don't think we all know what goes on because we're so busy in our own lives. We don't know what goes on in Austin and DC a lot of times and how it impacts us until it impacts us, right? But some of these things are so critical to not only our lives, but our children's lives, what they learn in school, as a woman, what you're able to do with your body, as a person who votes, where can I vote? What time can I vote? Gosh, these are all things that are just critical to us. And so if we don't speak up about it and where we stand, then we're going to be stuck with whatever happens to us. So that's why I always tell people, if you're not already engaged, get engaged. If you're not voting, get registered and vote. If your parents or your friends say, nah, I don't vote, that's not for me, whatever, tell them why it's so important, because these things are happening with or without your permission.
Very good point.
Veronica, this is Mike James. I have a question. You had mentioned one of the items that are, I think, in front of the special session is regarding the 13th check for TRS. And you mentioned teachers, but the question that I have is that for all TRS participants or is it specifically for teachers?
I believe it's specifically for teachers, Mike, but I need to see what it is since he just put the stuff out yesterday. The proclamation came out yesterday. I need to look at it to determine if it's going to apply to anybody that's in TRS, because a lot of us are in TRS.
That's right.
Thank
you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ms. Gonzalez, I had a question. Where can we go to see the results of the special session? Is there a website or something?
There is, and I'll get that for you. There's a Texas Legislative Online. And you can put in a bill number or you can put in a subject and it will pull up the laws that come up. But what we'll do is we'll create for you also a summary after the special session that will give you an idea of what happened, what came down the pipeline. I will tell you this, this again, why voting is so important. Right now, there's an imbalance in the state in terms of you don't have 50% Republicans, 50% Democrats. You have the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the speaker are all Republicans. And the majority in both the House and the Senate are Republican. So it's going to be hard for the Democrats really to fight some of the measures that are up. It's going to be hard because the majority is there. Now, it doesn't mean though, sometimes it's not about being a D or an R. On some issues, you have rural versus urban. And so sometimes you have the rural folks, they team up with some of the Democrats and say, we don't like this. Sometimes the business community says, hey, wait a minute. Like on the transgender, the business community had come out and said, whoa, you're going to make it very hard for conventions and big events and stuff to come to Texas if you start doing this, right? So they were working with them. So that's why, it's not always just DNR, but on some of these issues, it is DNR. Redistricting that's going to come up later in the fall, that's how who becomes your representative, right? What lines they have, what area they represent, that is very partisan. That's D versus R. So we'll get you that information. And then also, I know Vero just put up something on the chat saying you can also watch the debates live now online. So you can always go on and just type in Texas House of Representatives or Texas Senate, and it'll give you the link to click online. And while you're doing housework or whatever, you can watch it and you can hear it.
I have another question. So if we have a concern and we want to contact our legislator, let's say, for example, property taxes, right? What is the best way to contact them? Is it to write letters or is there a website that we can go to or?
Yes, and we'll provide you that information as well. As a concerned citizen, they all, usually it's their first name dot last name and then at house.texas.gov, or the Senate, it's the other way. We'll get that information to Nolan on how to contact them and for each office. And that way you have it and you can send letters. You can call, they have offices here and in Austin, but you can call either one and let them know where you stand on an issue. And you can also send emails. So any of those. And I will tell you, as a former legislator, when you start getting hundreds and hundreds of emails on one side of an issue, you know you better vote that way on that issue, because those are your constituents telling you, this is what I want. So
Magdalena, I
it
would
is
add
noticed.
though, if you're addressing them as an individual,
Mhm.
obviously we'll give you the information. If there's any issues that you want to address as a UTRGV employee or on behalf of your office or department, we do ask that you go through the Office of Government Relations, and this is per our president.
Yes.
So whether it's local, federal, or state, we do ask that it kind of go through our office. So we're channeling to be able to see, okay, we might have more background information, or just to make sure it's going in the correct way, or we figure out how to go about addressing the issue. But on the personal, as Veronica said, you can Google it and everything's online, or just let us know and we'll let you know who the right contact is for any personal issues.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and something that Vero said is important. I'll tell you why, because we are not lobbyists. You know, you hear about lobbyists all the time, lobbyists, all this money they spend and the big donations they give and taking them out to dinners and doing all these fancy, and lobbyists can do that. They're registered, but we are government relations. So we don't tell our legislators like, you have to oppose this or you have to, vote for it. What we tell them is, this is how it's going to impact our students, or this is how it's going to impact the university stuff. So that is why we're always very, very careful. And we ask our faculty and others that, hey, when you're going to take a position as a UTRGV person, please come through our office so that we can, make sure it's being done properly. But if you're taking a position as you, an individual that's concerned, let them know how you feel. Just tell them, I'm a concerned citizen and I live in your district. I vote for you, or I don't vote for you, and this is what I want you to do.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. This is Cynthia. First of all, I want to thank you for your years as a legislator.
Oh no, Mickey Mouse, dáselo a Caleb.
And second, I'm very excited about the expansion of our GME program to podiatry. Are there any other programs we're expanding to? I work in revenue cycle. I'm the revenue cycle manager for UTRGV.
Yes.
And so it's always important to know what else are we adding so we can prepare on the backside.
Well, we're adding podiatry. We're in the process of adding pharmacy. We're not there yet. But I imagine they'll start up in the next year or two. We're looking at PT. We're looking at, there's several new programs coming on board, but right now I think it's podiatry, and of course we're trying to expand all our residency programs as well, so that we have more residents, because everybody will say that where people do their residency, where the doctors do their residency, is where they stay, right? And so if we can get people to have residency programs and specialties down here, we have a lot, we all need family doctors, but aside from that, we need specialists. We need people in heart, we need people in cancer, we need people, and cancer is another area we're developing a lot in. We've already got researchers in it. Hopefully we will be able to expand the types of services that we can provide in cancer care. So those are some of the ones that I know are coming on board.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I think I have two questions. One of them was, you were saying that they were trying to pass a bill or something and they walked out, and what was the outcome? What was that about?
So there was some legislation to SB 7 to limit when you can vote, where you can vote. Like they were trying to say on Sundays, the voting locations that a lot of the African Americans use to vote after church, they would go, they were going to shut that down. And so there was, the Democrats were saying the restrictions that are being put on there are to prevent people from voting, people of color. And we want to stop it. But they knew that if they didn't walk out and there was a quorum and there was a vote, they were going to lose, right? And the bill was going to become law. So the Democrats started to slowly, one by one, walked out of the chamber. And until when they called up the bill, there was no longer a quorum present to vote. And so the chance to pass that bill at that late moment was no longer possible. So at that point, the session ended. The governor said, okay, I've got to call you back now because the regular session is only 140 days, right? And there's deadlines, like these bills have to get out of the House by this date. These bills have to get out of the Senate by this date. So the deadline had passed. So now he called them back and he said, you're going to pass voter legislation. And by the way, because you walked out, I'm taking away your pay. And I'm not just taking away your pay, I'm taking away the pay of all of the legislature and all of the staff, right? The entire budget gone. And so I'll consider reinstating your pay, but you got to come back and pass this legislation. So it's now become a big battle. Even it's in the courts. People have filed briefs with the Texas Supreme Court saying he can't do this. The Attorney General saying, yes, he can. We'll see what the court rules. But in the meantime, they're going to go back and they're going to possibly pass this legislation.
So because they were asked to vote, but they knew that if they voted against it, right, they knew they were going to lose. So the way they were able to, I guess, circumvent that was
Yes.
to walk out.
Yeah. It's just like right now, like let's say when your staff senate is meeting, right, you have to have a quorum in order to conduct business. And if you lose that quorum, then you can't conduct business anymore. So what they did was they broke quorum by walking out.
Is that common practice for that party, or both parties do it, or?
It's very, very rare. There's been very few times in the state when the quorum's been broken. There was a time, I don't know if you recall, you're young, so you may not remember, this was back over a decade ago, maybe 20 years ago. They broke quorum. The Democrats left the state and they went to New Mexico because of redistricting. And so they knew that if they stuck around that they were going to get districts drawn up in ways that they want, so they left the state. And then the governor at that time sent the DPS and others to go arrest them, to find them and arrest them and bring them back. So it's very rarely done that people will do it, but it's like sometimes, extreme measures are taken because of extreme circumstances and laws. And that's something that, you elect people so that they will do your work and they will do the things that are going to benefit you. And if you find that you're getting kind of run over, people will find a way to protest it, Yeah, that's right. It's a form of protest by politicians, Rolando just said. And that's true.
It seems.
Thank you so much. And Victor, I apologize that I'm gonna have to cut you off in your thought, but Miss Veronica Gonzales has a wonderful team. All their information is on the chat box, and I'm gonna call out Veronica de la Garza, who used to be a staff senator and her term has expired, but any in her division can re-elect her again, just putting it out there. But if you do have any questions, she is one of them that will answer it to the fullest, to your heart's desire. But I want to be respectful of everybody's time. And Ms. Veronica, thank you once again for sharing with us a wealth of your knowledge and for the work that you do and your team. And I cannot thank you enough for giving us your time this morning.
Thank you so much. Anytime.
Thank you. Now, during our meeting last month, Dr. Bailey shared some exciting news regarding our salaries. Of course, please keep in mind that it is all pending Board of Regents approval, and that will come in August next month. We extended an invitation to our Chief Human Resources Officer to chat with us about it. Mr. Mike James, good morning, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation and being here with us.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I really do appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all. Before I jump into that, I do want to remind everyone that it's also annual enrollment time, and we are having today the Benefits and Wellness Virtual Fair. And if you go to Messenger this morning, under happenings, there is a link to the program for the Benefits and Wellness Virtual Fair, and it'll tell you how you can get registered and participate in today's sessions. And so there are a lot of educational offerings, both for wellness issues as well as some of the upcoming insurance changes. And so I would encourage each of you to visit that if you're interested in learning more about the upcoming benefits offerings as well as our wellness program. With that in mind, let's go ahead and start talking salaries. As Dr. Bailey informed you all last month, we have been very fortunate and are able now to make a fairly substantial investment in our faculty, staff, and A&P salaries. Not the least of which is a very significant move for our new institutional base wage, going from $9.85 per hour up to $13 per hour. And that will be for our classified staff members. And for some people, this represents up to a 32% salary increase. And so that's just amazing. And it really is for our group appointed to entry-level jobs across the institution. That's really really impactful salary increases. And so I'm extremely happy about that. The second area will be for market and equity salary adjustments. And so this is the issue where it becomes a little bit more complicated in that we are going to have to, and we are already, tapping into the departmental leadership to help us determine years of experience and relevant experience and education levels to make sure that what is in the system is the complete picture for what we have on file for individuals with their resumes and applications that have been submitted through People Admin. For those that we don't have those documents, then we will be having the department heads working with their teams to get that, working with their employees to get the information that they need. But what we will be doing is that right now the supervisors have those spreadsheets, or the department heads have those spreadsheets. They are completing those documents to outline what the relevant years of experience are and what education levels are for their team members, and to get that back to human resources this month. We will be using that information to help inform placement within the range for individuals within the specific job titles for those salary ranges. It is important to note that we will be, this is not a one and done fix. So as we have said since the beginning of UTRGV, getting equity and market rates correct and getting them to where they need to be will be a multi-year process. And this is another step towards our end goal of being at market. But this session, or this process that we're going through this time, doesn't get us all the way there, but it gets it's a significant move. And so just know that this will be, there will be more, market and equity reviews to help continue to get us to our goal. The goal would be to probably get us to about the 25th percentile on average for all of our staff in their ranges. Right now, we're closer to 17%. And so that would be a goal that we are working toward. And then finally, we are going to be having a 2% merit program for classified staff and A&P. And, as usual, We are going to have some guidelines in there, and those are being finalized right now. The merit guidelines have been drafted, and we are sharing those with our leadership for review, and then we'll be communicating that out to the department and division heads. But it looks like what we will be requiring is that you have been employed since September 1st of 2020, that you are in good standing, which means that, and that means good standing as far as your performance appraisal for the most recent cycle. And that would be having an overall score of 3 or better. And that you are not in the discipline cycle, but all of those issues will be finalized and spelled out in the merit guidelines that we issue out. So those are the 3 primary areas of salary adjustments that Human Resources will be working on. And I want to let you all know that these are big programs. The adjustments for the institutional base wage, those will all be handled within Human Resources. We have that data, we know where these positions are, and we can make those adjustments, and that does not require anything for the departments to do, as I understand it right now. We will be doing a review of the individual salary ranges that have been, and actually that work was completed in May of 2021. And that those ranges are being established, or have been established, in order to avoid any sort of additional compression or salary, any compression issues for salary. And then what we're going to be doing is working with our friends in HRIS in the budget, because this information will be loaded and it will be provided through spreadsheet and uploaded into the system. Same goes with our equity and merit planning. Once those adjustments are determined, then we will be providing that to our salary administration team, and they will be providing all of this information into the system via an upload. So, the days of having to complete a form for everybody getting an adjustment, those days are over with. We will be doing these by and large through batch uploads into the system. So, all of this will come with some fairly tight deadlines, and those will be communicated. I can tell you that for the completion date for the equity and market adjustments, we are asking that the departments complete the information that we have submitted to them, and that we have that by the 19th of this month, so that we can do our work for appropriate placement within the range based on the years of experience and education levels that have been provided. The good news is that once we go through this process of determining the years of experience and I keep on saying years of experience, but it's years of relevant experience and education, we are going to, our goal is to have that, have a field created in PeopleSoft so that can be housed by individual. And I have been working with Trina Yunus in my office to sort of work towards getting those fields established so that we don't have to go through this process in the future to this extent. And then what we would do is that for every year of service, additional service, and yet relevant years of experience, then it would give you the additional years credit to those numbers. So a lot going on, and just a lot of really good news for everyone. This is, it's an incredible amount of work for Human Resources and for the budget office and for the division heads and department heads, but it's work that is sort of a labor of love. This is the most significant salary program that we've been able to offer since we've become UTRGV. And I've been waiting a very long time for this program. I think that it's impactful, and it's great news at a great time for the institution. And so I have sort of gone over the overall framework of the program and what we're going to be doing, and would like to offer up any questions or open the floor to any questions that you all may have. And just to let you know, I also have Christina Chavez on the call, as well as Jessica Avila from our compensation area. And so if any of your questions are more than I can handle, then I have them to jump in and help. So please feel free to ask any questions that you may have.
Mr. James, I missed the three possible requirements. Can you repeat those?
For the merit program?
Yes.
Sure. The merit program, we're gonna, and keep in mind, the merit guidelines will be coming out, they will be published, and all of this will be outlined there, right? But what we are thinking at this point is that they will be, that you have been an employee on a full-time basis since September 1st of 2020, that you are in good standing with your most recent performance appraisal, which would be an overall score of 3 or better, meets expectations, right? That's what a 3 is, fully meets expectations. So as long as you are overall in that area, 3 or better for classified staff, then you would be eligible. And if you are not in the discipline cycle, in other words, you haven't been, you haven't received a written warning or some sort of disciplinary action.
Mr. James, I'm sorry. So you also said that education would be involved in this, yes?
Yeah, we're just going to be making sure that the information that we have on our employees matches what is the truth. For example, some people, when they applied, may have had a bachelor's degree, but since that time, and they've been in the same job during all of this time, but they may have also gotten a master's degree since they applied. So we just want to make sure that the education that we have on file for each of our employees is accurate.
How do we inform you in human resources that something like that might have changed?
You can send an email to us at human resources at UTRGV, and we can check the system and update it accordingly. And we may ask you for some additional information, but certainly that's the right place to start.
Thank you.
We do have a question in the chat, Mr. Mike James. It says, how is the market value salary adjustment going to be measured?
Well, I will tell you that what we're going to be doing, so with the number of years of experience that someone has, that sort of, it does inform your placement within the range. Where is the appropriate placement within the established salary range for that particular position? And so what we will be doing is asking for the information from the departments to give us the years of experience, of relevant experience that someone has for that particular job, so that we can make sure that we are giving our employees full consideration for where they should be placed in their range properly. Does that answer the question, or was there more to it than that?
Karina, does that answer your question?
I guess, hi everyone, it's Karina Herrera. I guess what I'm trying to ask is, or to figure out is, where are the metrics to that?
Well, the source of the data is that we use a service called Pay Factors, which provides market data by a variety of job families. And Christina, you can jump in and talk a little bit more about the deeper dive specifics.
Well, actually, I think this is not even relevant. So I think, Karina, your question is, how are we going to come up with that? So yeah, so what we're doing is we're asking the department heads, and I'm gonna try to summarize a couple of the questions that I'm seeing here right now. So we're looking at, we've sent a list with the minimum requirements to the department heads. The department heads are then talking to you about, you know, what is your resume? What do you have on your resume? Was the resume that you used really your entire experience, or is there something that you left off? So then that experience is being entered into that spreadsheet, and it's that relevant experience that Mike was talking about. And relevant in regards to what's on your job description that you hold right now. So if you're an academic advisor, it is how many years do you have based on what it says in your job description that qualified you for it. So that maybe, you know, many years of experience do you have in student success programs and academic advising. If you've worked as, let's say, a cashier at Home Depot, that's not going to be applicable experience. You know, it's something that you did while you got your degree. So that those years of experience would not be counted. It's really just the applicable experience. And we provided the department heads those two lines that required education and required experience. And we did that for classified and A&P staff, which I see is another question that's in there. So yes, this is classified and A&P. So then once we've got that list with all of those years, we are going to apply basically the same calculation we've been using for the last 6 years that says, okay, where should you be within the range? We're going to get a very large number. So let's say I've got, let me pick on Mike James. He's a convenient victim right now. So he's got slightly more than 15 years of experience, let's say 25.
Let's double that, okay? Let's just be truthful.
Okay. So Mike has 29 years of experience in HR. So that based on that, he should get paid at the midpoint of his range. If he's not quite there, then we're going to get that dollar amount. Okay, so this is what's going to take Mike to get to his midpoint. Once we've got all of these amounts, we're going to come up with a huge amount of money. And then we're going to be able to see, and this is why we're kind of saying we'll see, and we'll have to see the numbers to really make a detailed recommendation. Because at that point, I can say, how much can we actually give Mike? Or how much can we actually give every, you know, academic advisor or every, you know, building attendant? For that, we need all of that information. And we could have done this one way, that HR could have just pulled all of that data, but it would have taken us really long. And Dr. Bailey is in support of doing this now and doing this effective 9/1. So we were like, you know what, we can do this. We have the support. Let's do this effective 9/1, and let's just pull the entire campus together and get everybody's support and everybody's help. And we can do this effective 9/1. I know we're giving you guys a huge task to help with. And this is really something that is a short time frame, but we can do this and we can get this done effective 9/1. But there are these steps that we have to follow. So right now, the first step is that we need all of that applicable experience back to HR by 7/19.
Yeah. So you said you need that information by 7/19?
Yes. Well, okay,
And
this is what HR needs. Your division head may say, I want it by the 15th. I want it by the 16th. So if your division head wants to see it sooner, then that is something that may have been communicated internally. So please don't quote me as that being.
That's the due by date to HR.
Yes.
Is there a more or less date as far as when it will be implemented or decided?
Well, everything
Well,
has to be loaded during the month of September. So we have to move on this quickly and make these determinations. Just so you'll know, as far as and Victor, what your question actually brings up a point that that I did not make yet. Everyone will be receiving a personalized letter, right, that outlines what their increase breakout is. Because if you receive a salary increase, you're going to say, well, what portion of that was market equity? What portion of this is merit, and you know, whatever. And so the letters that we are going to be generating will outline in detail what your breakouts are for your increases.
I would say nice, and that this will be letters to be more or less around September. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, well, the effective date is 9/1, and employees will see this on their October 1st paychecks.
And there is going to be a letter that really says, you know what, your adjustment to $13 was X, then your market adjustment was X, and then your merit was X. And that is, so I mean, we could have employees that get up to 3 adjustments, which is a huge
Amazing.
load into the system. And hopefully we don't break it.
Thank you. Very
There is
informative.
a question on the chat that says, if you're getting reclassified starting September 1st, will you still get the 2% merit?
Yes. It will be based on your effort during the previous year, but yes.
And we're trying to discourage any other action effective 9/1 because it is going to be, there are multiple adjustments that are happening on the same day. So if there's anything that could be done to avoid that 9/1 date, we're hoping that can be done. So those are those onesie twosie situations. Please reach out to us and let's discuss that individually.
And another question that was asked earlier is said that I understand it's not yet approved, but what are the options the board is considering? You mentioned 25 percentile, meaning it says, can that be elaborated? Will this market increase fall into the 2% merit, or is that an additional raise for staff faculty?
The market is independent of the merit program. So that would.
And the board only approved.
Go ahead, Christina.
Sorry. I'm sorry. The board only approves the big, they don't divvy down onesie twosie and look at UTRGV wants to do this. They get a big budget request. They get the executive summary basically.
Employees that are hired before September 1st at the current raise will also be eligible for the market equity adjustment?
Employees that are, let's see, on the 9/1/2020 date was specific to merit. We are going to be taking a comprehensive approach to market and equity.
Okay. Right.
I think what all of us are going to have to work on is if we have if you have somebody that's getting hired into one of those rates that right now pays less than those $13, we're going to have to really consider when we start making offers at that higher rate. It's not like we're going to say you're getting hired on $8.25 for $10 an hour, and then we're going to go in there and adjust you effective 9/1. So that minimum, yes. The market adjustments, we really need to focus on our current stuff.
And Christina, is there a document that we can reference to see the years needed for annual min, annual mid, annual max for any specific position? Would that be the one on the HR website, right? With the institutional pay plan? I think that's what Juan is referring to. He's asking if there's a document where he can see the min and mid and max for the position.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question.
Mm-hmm.
Christina?
Yeah, that would be just as you said, the pay plan. So we've got our pay plan for the classified positions. They're on the HR website.
And thank you, Melinda. I think Melinda Garcia posted the link to the chat box.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? Oh, we are having the wellness and benefits fair right now at the moment, and they've got sessions going on throughout the day. If they are not able to attend today's event, how can we make changes to our medical insurance?
Well, the good news is that annual enrollment is starting. Hold on just a second. I had gotten all of this from Trini, and it is from the 15th through the 31st of July. And so annual enrollment is not even open yet. What this is sort of the run up to annual enrollment to provide information, education regarding the programs and program changes, what's available to our employees, and then also direction regarding how to enroll, where to go, when what the effective dates are, all of that good stuff. So Today's session is information, and go out there and get registered and participate, and that will also register you, as I understand it, for a giveaway. There's some giveaways that they will be doing.
Wonderful. All right.
I saw.
If there are no, oh, go ahead.
I saw a question in here that I wasn't too sure. I don't think you guys had answered yet, but there was a bit of some in regard.
Marisol, you got muted.
Sorry. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so yeah, there were like multiple questions here that it was kind of regarding like, will this new increase, will this only affect compensation, or would the years of relative experience and relative education affect the position entirely, such as if your degree has anything to do with maybe just, getting the increase, or, at all? I guess something with education.
Well, I'm not sure I understand, quite frankly. I'm not sure, honestly, what's being asked.
Yeah,
but
no.
Your years of relevant experience and education will inform where we place you in your current range. It will not necessarily tell us, oh, this person should be classified differently. Now, there may be some questions about that from department heads, and they say, oh, look, we've taken a look at this and we believe that there may be a need to reclassify this person. And that's a different discussion, and an appropriate one, frankly. So so the answer to your question is, I think, yes, there may be some discussion, because there may be some determination that people have regarding classification. I think that that's going to be a very low number, frankly, but I think that there will be some, there's a possibility of that.
But it won't necessarily affect it in I guess in a bigger aspect, just depending on, let's say somebody did get a college degree versus somebody who did not get a college degree.
Yeah, we have all of that outlined, though. If someone, because, many of our jobs will allow for equivalencies. Not everybody has a 4-year degree, but they have 20 years of experience doing something, and we will give them credit, and it's usually year for year. So if it requires a 4-year degree, then if they've got 4 additional years of experience in that particular job, then we can give them that credit.
Yeah, I think, Mike, that's what we've been getting some of the questions for the substitutions, because we've got very few job titles where it's either a master's degree and less years of experience, or a bachelor's degree and more years of experience. So there's that offset that supervisors are going through, and there may be a difference in calculation. So even though you may have the same years of experience as the person next to you, if there's a difference in degree, then yes, it's going to be reflected in the end.
There is a very good question that was posed in the chat by Rolando Gonzales. He asked, will equity determinations be shared with the employees? In other words, will employees be shown what was submitted by departmental heads as far as work experience and whatnot?
For their own information, they can certainly talk to their supervisors about that, yes.
Okay.
If they're asking for a comparison to the overall department, that's probably not going to be just posted. It is probably an individual conversation that department heads and supervisors will have with each of their employees, if necessary.
All right.
I know that, for example, I'm going to give you an example. One of the departments that we work with a lot, of course, is marketing and communications. And it was my understanding that each of Patrick's direct reports were going to sit down with their employees to go over and make sure that the information that they are entering into that document is going to be something that people are, that employee is aware of. So we would be doing the same thing in human resources.
Sounds good. Well, Mr. Mike James, you and your team have a daunting task ahead of you.
But it's a labor of love. This is great. We're excited to be doing it.
Thank you.
Christina may never get to take another vacation as long as she lives. However, but we are going to get through this, and we're all going to be better off for it. So Nolan, thank you so much for the invitation and the opportunity to talk to the group today. And I look forward to visiting with you all again sometime very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so
Mr.
much
James, for your
to you.
presentation and efforts. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. All right, colleagues, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the section on our agenda with the committee and task force reports. And I understand that it is the summer, and you know, as I said before, it is a good thing to take time to relax and refresh ourselves. But I am pleased to tell you that your staff senators have been working every day to keep us all engaged and connected. So I'm going to call on Miss Millie Resendez, who is the chair of our communications committee. Tell us what's happening, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. For our upcoming projects, we are getting ready to launch our Wellness Wednesday campaign. We will have staff senators share photos, videos on their favorite healthy shakes, recipes, exercises, and recommendations on how to stay healthy. But we would also like to open this invitation to our staff. If you would like to participate, please send your photos to our staff Senate email. As part of this campaign, we are excited to also collaborate with our UTRGV Campus Food Security Initiative for Wednesday Wellness webinars. We are right now in the process of getting that going. We are coordinating that right now. So staff centers will be sharing plant-based recipes, working with them on this. And just to finalize, we just continue to invite you to follow us on our Staff Senate social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. As we continue our Meet Mondays, Staff Senate Spotlight, and selected national days, and the upcoming Wellness Wednesday campaign. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Millie, and Communications Committee. Moving on to Ms. Caitlin Brosette, the chair of our Elections and Constitution Committee.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. A lot of awesome information being shared. On our end for the Elections and Constitution Committee, it really does take a village. Your executive board has been working very hard with our committee to make sure that our elections, once we kick them off, are as smooth as possible. So please continue to check your UTRGV email for some updates from us. You'll be hearing very soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Caitlin. And now I would like to call Ms. Karen Dorado, our chair of the Feedback Committee.
Thank you, Madam President Nolan. Good morning, all. Our updates for the Feedback Committee are as follows. Like Ms. Nolan mentioned, our co-chair, Nick Beverly, has moved on from the university to another great opportunity. We're very happy for him. We acknowledge Nick's contributions and we thank him for his service on the committee as co-chair. And we now want to announce that we've selected Ms. Teresa Villarreal to serve as the co-chair for the Feedback Committee. We're very happy to have Teresa as our co-chair and know she will be a great co-chair for our Feedback Committee. In addition, we want to continue to review, and follow up on feedback received in past Staff Senate meetings to the Staff Senate email account and to the feedback form on the Staff Senate website. So we just want to encourage you to continue submitting your feedback. Your feedback is very important to us. And just help us share any feedback ideas about UTRGV resources, processes, initiatives that would help promote staff employee success in the workplace. And we'll drop the link in the chat box. If you have any questions or if you have any new feedback, you can also reach out to us via email at staffsenate@utrgv.edu. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you so much, Karen. All right. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next item on the agenda. Madam Vice President, you can take the lead on that.
Yes, so the floor is already open for public comments or questions. Go ahead and please, anyone, if you'd like to share any advertisements or anything that you'd like to say share with our university constituents. The floor is now open for public comments.
Since we're all very shy at the beginning, I am going to call on Ms. Jayshree Bhatt, who's joined us this morning. She's got some things to share with us.
Yes, thank you. I'll lower my hand. I had my hand up. So congratulations to you all. Let me just tell you that I tried to join. I was on my phone because I was, there was internet issues for this call. And then somewhere in the middle of the meeting, I tried to join through my desktop and it said that it was completely full, 300 people. It helps to have important presentations going on, right? So, anything to do with salary, everyone has interest in it. But do I have about 30 seconds or how much time do I have? Okay. All right. So for some of you might be aware of what I do. I'm the assistant VP for the professional ed and workforce development for the university. And without taking much into this, some departments that offer the non-credit education programs fall under my office. And so one of the latest things that we rolled out is the LinkedIn Learning platform. And I know that the email went out to the entire campus community about the availability of this free service or free platform for anyone that wants to gain some industry-specific knowledge in various different learning areas. I was going to share the screen, but instead I will go ahead and share the link to that website for those of you who may not have accessed through the single sign-on. It's made very easy for you. You just have to click on the login link that's available through this website and use your UT RGV credentials to be able to get access to thousands and thousands of industry-specific courses that are very easy to access and consume from a learning perspective as well. What I do is I have LinkedIn Learning on my cell phone, mobile phone, that app, and I just access it whenever whenever something interesting comes up where I'm like, I'm not knowledgeable in this. Instead of going to YouTube, I go to LinkedIn Learning because the content is actually taught by industry experts as well. So I would rather believe what I learned there than what I gained from YouTube. So I would highly recommend that you all do that as well. And the most important thing that I want to mention is that if you actually complete a course, it will add a digital badge to your LinkedIn profile as well. So I would highly, highly encourage all of you to take advantage of this, because this is a limited time the campus-wide launch that we are doing that will end on August 31st. So I would like every one of you to take advantage of this learning opportunity. And other than that, the only other thing that I wanted to mention is how the Staff Senate is collaborating with the Campus Food Security Initiative, which is also under my office, to do the Wellness Wednesdays. I look forward to working with the group for that as well. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, JNS. You can see in the chat, there have been a few that loves LinkedIn Learning. And
yes, it is. I'm one of them.
Wonderful. So we'll definitely, and it is free, right?
It is free. That's why I said we made it very easy for the staff, students and faculty to access this platform. It's set up on integrated into Blackboard as well. It's available to staff with that single sign-on, just like how you log in to access Zoom. This is exactly how it's set up. So please refer to the page that I sent you, the link that I sent you shared via the chat, and save it as, for any future reference as well, so you can access the programs. There are some testimonial videos. If you want to see what this is about, it's available there as well.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Anybody
Thank
else
you.
that has to share?
Hi, good morning. Noel, and I've got a few reminders. So Jaime Vasquez from IT. So we will be rolling out the Microsoft MFA, Microsoft Authenticator app to a few apps next week. on July 13th for PeopleSoft, Microsoft Office 365, and EAB Navigate. So this was kind of the campaign we were having to switch over from Duo Mobile. So if anybody hasn't registered yet for MFA or needs to kind of verify, I'm going to put a link here in the chat for our knowledge article to register, or steps on how to check it as well. Okay. If in case you get to the point to where you're trying to register or you're trying to log in next week and you're having trouble, we've seen some people, maybe they're being asked for a code and it's not letting you log in. We're trying our best to make sure staff are set up with more than one authentication method. So if in case you're set up with a code, you may also have a phone number listed. When you log in, there's an option to try a different method. So I just want to remind everybody, if one method doesn't work, try a different one, right? But the best thing you can do is go through here and try to make sure that you're registered, make sure things are working. Of course, if it's not working, you're having trouble, you can feel free to open up an incident for us, service desk, or of course, feel free to call in or come by the walk-up desk, academic services, and humane, right? And we're more than happy to help you out. So just a reminder that is going to happen next week, July 13th. One question I get after this is Duo going away? Can I get rid of the Duo app? Not just yet. We're still using Duo for VPN and certain other apps. So there's going to be a little while where we're going to be using both Duo and MFA. Eventually Duo will be going away, but don't remove Duo just yet, okay? So if in case you all, again, need any help or feel free to call into the service desk or to put in tickets, we will help you out as best we can. We want to make sure that everybody's ready and that your access doesn't get, blocked, or you won't have trouble accessing these services, especially like PeopleSoft, time cards are coming up. Some people are on vacation and all that. So we want to make sure people are ready.
So I just want to make sure, Jaime, now whenever I log on to access my OneDrive, it's right now it prompts me to push a Duo or send to my phone. So now it will be pushed to MFA or the other.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Once you log into, so then that'll be on the 13th. We're going to make that change. So if you log into PeopleSoft, Microsoft Office 365, or EAB Navigate, where you were prompted for Duo before, on the 13th, you're now going to be prompted to use Microsoft MFA. Most people have set up the Microsoft Authenticator app, but you might have other methods like to put in a code or to put in a phone text, right? Depending on what you set up, that's what you'll be prompted for instead of Duo on that date.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Jaime.
Thank you.
I believe we have our staff senator, Nicole English, on the call. Nicole, can you share with us what's happening this afternoon?
Yes, I just wanted to share real quickly that we have the UTR-TV employee return to campus roundtable going on today at 2 p.m. I know there's also a benefits and wellness session going on. So obviously, if you want to see what's happening on the benefit side and wellness side, please join that as well. I don't want to be a competition here, but for free to join us. We'll have more roundtables coming up and more trainings as we get ready for the fall. So please join us. Registration is open via the UTR-TV training portal, and you will receive a link to join the Zoom meeting this afternoon. So that's at 2 p.m. today, and it's 1 hour, 2 to 3.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, anybody else?
Good. Hello.
Hi, Carlos.
How's it going? So I was just going to mention that we are now doing a payroll deduct for Junior Vaqueros Club. So we're pretty excited about it. And so it comes out to 12 deductions. And it's a really cool, cost-effective way for you to have the family join for events. So just wanted to mention that the payroll deduct is kind of cool, and it won't take effect until October 1st. So if you're interested, you can just email us the information. All we really need is the employee ID number, and we can have you guys join us for all the events you want to come to, whether it's volleyball games, baseball games, or basketball. Yeah, everything's included.
Wow, that's great news. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, well, I know that there was an issue with some of our colleagues trying to get in, and apparently we maxed out at 300. I greatly apologize for that. I was made to understand that we have a 500 max capacity, so I'm not sure what happened. But the good news is this meeting is being recorded and we will release it to you all sooner rather than later. And you can get informed and catch up on what you missed out this morning. As always, I encourage you to keep in touch with us through our email address, reach out to your staff senators in your respective division, and follow us also in all our social media platforms. If nobody has anything else to bring to the floor, I am more than happy to give you about 20 minutes of your time this morning. And with that, I will entertain the motion to adjourn. There's a motion on the floor.
Second. Oh,
Cordelia, motions to adjourn.
I motion.
Okay. She moves, I'm sorry. And
I
second?
second.
Somebody second.
I second.
Teresa, all right. Any debate or discussion? Any debate or discussion? Any debate or discussion?
Meeting is adjourned, 10:42 a.m.
Thank you so much, everybody. You all have a great rest of the week. We'll see you next month.